ブレイブドラゴン。レッカバット。
Hello YouTube, this is Charlie426, and today we have the review of the SHF Kamen Rider Saber from the Kamen Rider Saber series. Now, it's going to be pretty uncommon for me to, purchase and review like main character stuff, but in the Kamen Rider stuff, I think I would give it an exception because I did buy 01, and I have pretty much purchased all of his upgraded forms at this point as well. So, I originally did not have any plans to purchase this specific rider at the time. But recently, after visiting Gundam Base, they were selling this, and I was amazed at the price, which was about $38. So I had to grab it because most of the SHF figure arts I purchased are usually either $50 as if cheap, and usually up to like $90 or $100 if usual. But still, I was pretty impressed by the quality and price of this figure. Granted, it's not perfect. There are some parts that are kind of tricky for me. There are some parts that are starting to worry a little bit, that I'm starting to a little bit worry about, but hopefully it won't be a big thing later. Alright, so, and as you may know, you might have noticed, like, my camera, now I have fixed one of my issues that I had for a long time, which was light issues. So, for those who know, my setup, it's a pretty simple setup. I have this in a bookcase, and then I have these LEDs on each side. Now, up to some point, they would basically, when I first installed those, they were definitely much better without having them. But after a few years with only two LEDs, I would sometimes have problems with the focus issues, and then some parts looking dark despite having LEDs on the side. But now, I actually installed another third LED on my camera, which is facing towards the figure. So hopefully now lighting issues won't be a thing in my videos now, and I do plan on buying a separate mic in the pretty close future, because up to this point, all what you've been hearing is my pure voice from my camera. I did not do any voiceovers, I did not apply any effects, so just keep that in mind. But hopefully later I can improve the sound quality as well. Alright, so let's get on to the review. So this figure, the components is very simple. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously Kamen Rider Saber, the main character himself, and then stuff wise, this is all you get. So currently you get his personal sword weapon, which was the Kaenken Rekka, which is basically a flame sword. And then you get in total 4 sets of hands. Currently there's 3 right over here, and then 3, I am currently using the typical fist hands onto the figure. So since we've seen the basic components, now let's get on to the review. Now, why I was impressed by this figure, by the price, is because this was $38 and had a extra weapon, which is definitely, of course, which was the gimmick of the rider slash the belt. But when you compare that, like for example, from the past, let's say we had SHF Kamen Rider 01, that thing did not have any weapons, which was kind of disappointing. Despite in the series, he did have a weapon. Of course, that was a message of where they included the weapon on a different rider, so they would buy both riders at the same time. Now, this one also has that kind of a thing, but I'll get into that later. So, let's go on to the review. So, let's look at the articulation first. So, I think they did an excellent job on the head sculpt and then the overall color of it. I think they did a really good job on that aspect. Definitely just, it looks like really the rider from the show right in front of me at the same time. So, the main reason why at first I wasn't a big fan of this rider was pretty much the head. I did not like the head design, but later in the series it started to grow on me, so I say I'm good with that at this point. Of course, I did actually pre-order Kamen Rider Blaze, so yeah, I guess I should do a comparison in the near future when he arrives. So the head sculpt, pretty well done. I don't see any flaws at this point. And then you can go down that much for the head articulation, and then up that much. And for those who are wondering, yes, I did also pre-order his power-up form, which was the Dragonic Knight, I believe. And then the 360 twist, well, keep in mind, it's a human inside, so you're not supposed to do that, but if you force it, I'm pretty sure you can kind of do that. But once again, human inside, I'm not going to force it. Alright, so now let's get the arms. So, you may have noticed each arms are different colors, even the hands and the shoulders are different. So let's look at the more basic looking shoulder. So, in this form, you can kind of go 360, but it's actually a little bit stiff here. So what you can do is kind of pull out the arm. Now you can move the arm a little bit more easier, but still, you can hear the squeak noise. That is very stiff. And the shoulder armor does slightly move as well. I believe that's still on a ball joint. And then the arms can go, you can bend them more than 90 degrees, but pretty much a 90-degree bend. It's just the overall design and sculpt that is colliding with each other. And you have a forward and backward movement on the shoulders as well. Well, at least on this shoulder. So you may have noticed the shoulder armor is actually on the arm. Now this one, the one with the dragon face. Now I do like this design overall, but this thing is not actually attached to the arm. This is actually attached to the main body. So you can go up and down, and then and it is on a ball joint, so you are able to slightly twist it side to side. But keep in mind, this is not on the arm, which does bring out a problem on the articulation. So 360 twist, I'm gonna say not possible at this point, unless you like work your way around and do something like this. But still, yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention, you still have your 360 twist on the lower arm as well. So each on arm, that is still possible. And bend wise, actually this arm kind of bends a little bit more than the black section here. So that's actually a pretty good plus. Hands are your still typical ball jointed hands, but with the ball joint on the arm instead of on the actual hand. So yeah, this part might become a problem when it comes to articulation. So just keep that in mind and try not to like break it. Of course, when you're moving the head also, sometimes depending on the location of the shoulder, the head and shoulder will actually collide a lot with each other. So just be aware of that aspect. Now let's look at the driver or the belt. Actually, before the belt, let's look at the main body. So the main body, we do have an ab crunch going on here that can go forward and backward as well, side to side, and then twisting not so much than you think. You would think that it could go more, but this is as far as you go as well. Something does happen with my LED, but hopefully that was into something important. And then looking at the back, here we go. Nothing too special on the back. There's no hole, there's no extra attachments going on here, but sometimes I would just wonder, or sometimes I think it would be okay to have like a small hole on the, I don't know, maybe on the butt or on the back, so we can attach a actual action base to the figure more easily instead of using those claws. Alright, so now let's look at the driver. So the belt. You may have noticed that when I was introducing the components, you may have noticed there's no small sword in here, because for those who have seen the promo pictures for this rider, or if you've seen the ones for the blades, you might have noticed he had the sword inside his belt. But with the current one, you cannot do that. It's a little bit too big, and there is actually a hole there, so something can go through there. So you're supposed to originally get one, but what they did in this figure is that they included that with blades. So they kind of made you to it's the same strategy of what they did with 01. So they want you to buy both versions, so you can actually play. You can get the small sword from blades and attach it to here. So that's not the main reason why I pre-ordered it, because at the time I preferred blades design first. So yeah. So that is a little bit of a problem. So hopefully when I review blades, I'll bring this one out and show you guys an example. But once again, if you buy blades, you basically get his own blue sword, and then you get a smaller version of the blue sword and the red sword as well. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Now, a lot of people these days would complain about the details on the belt. So here is the Wonder Ride book here. And as you can see, it's just pure black on the inside, but at least it's outside of the red. And people would usually complain that there's no, the details is missing on the book. Like there's no pictures on the book, there's no writings on the book, there's no inside pictures. So so third-party companies will usually print out stickers. And recently I actually seen one of these stickers, and they don't look that great. Or it could be that the fact that the example I saw was not well done, because the example I saw could have been a prototype, or it could have been a personal made thing, but it did not look good to me. So with that in mind, I would rather just have it like this instead of having a extra sticker or paper onto these like parts. But other than that, the other parts like this extra gold detail, they did an excellent job on that. So yeah, I'm just satisfied with this point. And let's get the waist section. Now the waist section, nothing too special going on here, but we do have like a robe here. Now usually up to this point, like any rider character would have these type of robes would have a big problem with their legs, but in this case you can go side to side a little bit more easier than usual, and then now you can also send it to the back like this. So this actually helps a lot. Now, I have had a review. I did make reviews of certain SHF figure arts that would have these type of ropes, and they would always be a problem when it comes to the leg articulation. But in this case, they pretty much fix that aspect by allowing the cape to go back like this. I mean, not cape, but the rope go back like this. So that's a really good plus. So with that in mind, we have a nice size swivel going on here. They did an excellent job on the gloss paint on the white section here and the red section. And the black section is actually not paint, but actually just the part. Size swivel is decent going on there. And then you can go about 90 degrees to the front and back, not so much. And we have a nice bend going on here as well. And we have a nice pivot joint on the feet. And you are able to rotate the feet 360. Not 360, but side to side, because I know there are certain figures out there that can't do this for some reason. And we still have your typical toe bend as well. So we have your basic articulation as well, of course, on certain areas, but of course certain areas are also hindered by their own design. So this isn't like articulation hindered by their own design is not too. It's actually a pretty common thing when you think about it, but still it works. Now, before I go to the demonstration with the weapon, here's one part that I'm kind of worried about. So, you get 4 sets of hands. But, if you look at a different hand right over here, let's say here we have this hand, and you may have noticed the handguard is missing. Yes, which means every time you swap out hands, you need to take off the handguard of the previous hand, like that, and then reattach it. Now, the main reason why I don't buy SHF Iron Man figures is pretty much this reason. I know most Iron Man figures are like this, so I really hope this is not going to be a thing in the future as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure for Kamen Rider Saber stuff, it's going to be like that, but let's say hopefully the next Rider series or like upcoming figures don't do this as much as they do. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for the articulation. I'll be right back with some demonstrations. Okay, I'm back. So now I pretty much did the pretty much signature pose of Kamen Rider Saber, even that he does in the opening. And I also brought out some flaming effect parts that I recently bought, which actually, technically, which I bought together with the figure. So they all work very well with this figure as well because of the old flame effect part and being a fire-based elemental rider. So yeah. Now, despite the shoulder, you are able to do most of its signature poses without any problems as well. It's just mostly the 360 twist on the arm is kind of impossible with that dragon shoulder going on here. And I've also noticed that I forgot to mention about which hands that you actually get. So here are the rest of the hands. So currently, as I mentioned, you get the typical fist hands going on here, and then that's one set. And then currently, I'm using one. So here is the hand for the multi-purpose weapon. So in this case, you use these hands for the sword, and then you get 2 open style hands for posing as well. So it's pretty much your typical style hands when you think about it. And once again, keep in mind these effect parts are separate stuff. They do not come with the figure, but I would kind of suggest you buy these because they do look very good. And these flame effect parts have multiple uses as well. Anyway, that's pretty much it for the review. This was the review of the SHF Figures Kamen Rider Saber. If you guys got any questions or requests, you comment below. I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. And tomorrow will be a Gunpla review. Until then, see you guys next time.